I want you to read more, but I want you to study less. I want you to read more business communication and leadership communication books. I love those books. I think they're great. However, as a non-native speaker, I find that what happens is it's either very hard to do because reading in English is slower than your native language. You overthink it, you activate student mode. And so you either take too long reading one book or more realistically, you quit. So you start reading it, then life gets busy. And again, it's not sustainable because it's not enjoyable. I want you to read more, but I want you to study less. So what happens with people that I work with, because you're in a leadership position, you probably are the ambitious type A type. So you always want to be an overperformer. And how that manifests in terms of reading skills is that you tend to study the book. Most of you were probably really good students, or you're just really efficient at learning. And so you want to underline words. You want to figure out what phrases are being used. So what it does is it's not only is reading in English slower to begin with for you, but it slows down that process even more. And then you get so caught up in the grammar and the nuance and all these little things that you don't appreciate the bigger picture, which is the theories and the strategies that are being presented, and then focus on implementation. So this year, I want you to get out of student mode, stop studying business and leadership books. I want you to read them and implement the strategies. So a couple of ways to do this is I actually recommend what I do with my clients when I pick books for them is I'll send them a video from YouTube. Most of the more popular books, people have already reviewed them. I'll do either a review, sometimes like an animated summary. People will make like a 3 to 5 minute video about the main points. So you start with already understanding the main points. That way, when you're reading the book, those will pop out more. And from a cognitive perspective, it helps with retention. So I like to think about it as getting myself hyped, getting myself excited about the points that I'm going to read more in depth about. So that's a tiny way to start. Secondly, I want you to read the physical or digital book at the same time as the audiobook. If you're already an audiobook person, that's great. Keep doing it. But I would recommend to also implement this strategy because there is something really powerful from a grammar perspective to be exposed to the sentence structure, to hear the intonation and how the rhythm ends up being from this like static written form to the delivery of the verbal form. You'll also get more familiar with spelling. You'll get more familiar with phrasal verbs just through exposure. So it does activate that a little bit more. And it has the side benefit of helping you be a faster reader in English. This is something that I'm working with a client right now. It can be frustrating when you have so much content to prepare for your meetings, for your presentations, even something as simple to other people like reading emails can be a slower process for a non-native speaker. And so by combining the audiobook with the digital, it's really interesting because I asked my client, how long does it take you to read a book typically? Because she loves business books. She's like, well, a few months. And so I looked at the audiobook and I'm like, listen, if you read it with the audiobook, you can read this full book, like 400 pages in 5 hours and 45 minutes. And she has a long flight planned to Dubai in a few weeks. And she's like, oh, I could read that on my flight. Like, yes. So this will help you experience the success and the just fulfillment, because I love reading, of being able to read in English faster. And it forces you to let go of the underlining and the studying because you have to just enjoy the audio with the written. And so the goal there is to be able to, because you've already exposed yourself to the main points with the video, and now you're doing the audio and digital, you're able to appreciate the message, the delivery. A big part of these books, especially I find when it's a really good narrator or the author is a really good speaker and they narrate the book, the audiobook, you also see the power of how intonation and delivery can impact motivation, can impact buy-in, can impact just persuading you to try this new strategy. So these are things that as a leader are more important than understanding every single word. So to recap, I want you to read more. I would even say try to pick one book per month. Challenge yourself. It's 12 books this year. Sit down right now, go online, figure out what skills you want to learn, pick 12 books, do one each month with the physical and the audiobook, and just challenge yourself that if you are able to finish it by the end of the month, great. And if not, move on to the next one. Just see what it feels like. For some of you, it might be really uncomfortable not to finish the book. Again, this is not school. You have no tests coming up. So part of it's also accepting that partially done is better than not done at all. And that's really hard for type A people, but you've got to think about the bigger benefit. Sometimes understanding just the main points, going a little bit in depth and then moving on, that's going to get you more than reading this book. And every time you look at it, you're going to feel like a failure because you've been reading it for 6 months and it's only 300 pages. So it's not adding to your confidence and it's not adding to your leadership communication skills. Thank you so much. And remember, your English is good enough. You are good enough. Now we just get to be better together.